What would you do if darkness closed in, the only sound being your own breath, and then the rope keeping you alive suddenly snapped? In the eerie silence of Roppel Cave, a team of explorers faced a terrifying moment that could have ended in tragedy. The last caver to ascend a 46-foot drop was nearing the top when disaster struck. The rope failed, and he fell, plummeting into the cold, unforgiving depths of the cave. Injured and alone, with no easy way out, he had to summon every ounce of strength to survive. How did he escape? What went wrong? Join us as we uncover the harrowing story of survival, determination, and teamwork in the depths of the unknown. Roppel Cave is a fascinating part of the Mammoth Cave system, the longest cave in the world, located near Cave City, Kentucky. Mammoth Cave spans an impressive 412 miles, or 663 kilometers of surveyed passages, and is protected as a national park, with exploration managed by the Cave Research Foundation, or CRF. However, much of Roppel Cave, discovered in the 1970s, lies on private land, so its exploration is coordinated by the Central Kentucky Karst Coalition, or CKKC. One key entrance, the Dalio entrance, is now managed by the Southeastern Cave Conservancy. Roppel Cave became a crucial part of the Mammoth Cave system in 1983, when cavers connected its extensive passages to Mammoth Cave, adding nearly 80 miles of explored tunnels. This connection was the result of years of hard work, detailed mapping, and a little luck. Before the connection, Roppel was considered a separate, significant cave system, but afterward it became part of the larger Mammoth Cave and was removed from the list of the world's longest standalone caves. The central Kentucky karst region, where Roppel Cave is located, formed over millions of years as water from a vast sinkhole plain carved through the limestone rock. This karst landscape, shaped by meteoric water flowing through an unconfined aquifer, has evolved as the Green River slowly cut deeper into its valley over the past 10 million years. Caves like Roppel develop at different levels, revealing the fascinating geological history of the area. Exploration of these caves involves both dry passages and underwater routes. Cavers use precise survey methods, overlaying cave maps on topographic maps to predict where cave systems might connect. Sometimes it takes years of dedicated effort. Other times, a breakthrough comes from pure chance. One ongoing project is the Logsden River Sump in the Roppel Cave section. Since the 1950s, explorers have worked tirelessly to link smaller caves to Mammoth Cave, and the effort continues today, supported by groups like the CRF, CKKC, and the National Park Service. On the morning of June 12, 1982, a team of 4 experienced cavers set out for an exciting adventure in Roppel Cave, located near Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. Kevin Bruno, Danny Dipple, Greg McNamara, and Dave Black were seasoned explorers who had spent countless hours navigating the dark, twisting passages of the caves. They were eager to explore new passages, add to the existing survey, and push the boundaries of what was known about this sprawling underground world. The group had been planning for this trip for weeks. They carefully packed their gear the night before, making sure that they had everything they needed for a long journey underground. Their equipment included helmets with headlamps, sturdy climbing rigs, ropes, ascenders, harnesses, and plenty of backup light sources like flashlights. They also carried food, water, and first aid supplies, knowing the dangers that caving could bring. Despite the risks, the excitement of discovery drove them forward. The thrill of exploring uncharted passages and adding their findings to the map of Roppel Cave filled them with a sense of purpose. At 11 a.m., the team stepped into the mouth of Roppel Cave, their headlamps cutting through the deep darkness like bright beacons. The cool, damp air wrapped around them, and the steady drip of water echoed off the stone walls, creating an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere. Every step felt like a journey into the unknown. They moved carefully, their boots crunching over loose rocks and slick mud. Narrow tunnels twisted ahead of them, and jagged rocks jutted out like ancient teeth. But the team pressed on, their hearts pounding with excitement. Their mission was clear: to explore and map passages deep below a place called the Rift. The Rift was no ordinary passage. It was a massive canyon-like gap that cut through a main route known as Yahoo Avenue. It loomed ahead, a shadowy challenge that promised both danger and discovery. The thrill of venturing into uncharted territory fueled their determination. Every corner they rounded, every echo in the darkness felt like the start of a grand adventure. For hours, the team worked without any pause, carefully measuring distances, marking elevations, and sketching detailed maps of the dark, winding passages. Time seemed to stand still in the cave. But by 4 a.m. on June 13th, they had completed 10 exhausting hours of work. Tired but proud of what they had accomplished, they decided that it was time to make the long journey back to the surface. Getting out wouldn't be easy. They had to climb 2 steep drops, one 20 feet high and the other 46 feet, both rigged with ropes that had been left there permanently for cavers like them. Now the first climb went smoothly at first. One by one they ascended the 20-foot rope. The cave walls seemed to press in around them, and the sound of their heavy breathing echoed in the still air. When it was Dave Black's turn, he gripped the rope tightly and began pulling himself up. But as he climbed, he noticed that something was wrong. His upper ascender knot wasn't sliding smoothly. It kept catching, forcing him to tug it upward with extra effort. Every pull sent a jolt of unease through him. The rough frictions started to fray the rope fibers, and he could feel the wear as he climbed. But he kept going, determined to reach the top. When he finally pulled himself up onto the ledge, he examined the rope carefully. All 3 strands of the thick rope were still intact, but they were worn and frayed. It was a close call. He quickly retied the damaged knot, making sure that the weakened part of the rope wouldn't rub further. And with a deep breath, he prepared for the next, more difficult climb, the 46-foot ascent. The real challenge was about to begin. The team approached the towering 46-foot drop, knowing that it was the most difficult climb of the journey back. One by one, the first 3 climbers scaled the rope, their headlamps flickering in the darkness as they pulled themselves up. They climbed with caution, but confidence, finally reaching a dry spot 500 feet ahead in the passage. Dave Black was the last to climb. He stared up at the towering rope, took a deep breath, and began his ascent. Every muscle in his body strained as he gripped the rope tightly, pushing off the rock wall with his feet. The cold, damp air pressed against him, and the faint echoes of his friends' voices drifted down from above. His focus was sharp, his breathing steady. The climb was difficult, the rope rough in his hands, but he made steady progress. Inch by inch, he rose higher, determined to reach the top and join the others. But as Black neared the top, disaster struck. Just as he reached the lip where the rope passed over the edge, the frayed knot gave way. In an instant, the rope snapped loose. Time seemed to slow down as Black felt the rope slip from his grip. His heart raced with panic as he desperately grabbed for the rope again, but the other knots, already weakened, gave out too. The friction had burned through them, and they failed one by one. Black fell. He plummeted down the shaft, the darkness swallowing him as he fell at terrifying speed. His instincts kicked in, and he wrapped his legs around the rope, clinging with everything he had. It slowed his fall slightly, but not enough. The impact came fast and hard. He hit the ground with a bone-jarring thud, the cold, unforgiving rock beneath him. Pain exploded through his body. The force of the fall slammed into his heels and lower back, sending shock waves of agony through him. For a moment, everything was still. He lay there in the cold, damp darkness, gasping for breath, his mind spinning. He couldn't tell if he had broken any bones, but the pain was unbearable. The sound of water dripping nearby seemed louder, sharper in the suffocating silence. The fall had been brutal, but somehow he was alive. Black had landed hard on a small rock shelf in a shallow pool of water between two big drops. The fall hurt a lot, leaving him dazed and confused. His helmet light had fallen off and his glasses flew away. For a moment, he lay there in the cold water, shocked and unsure if he was hurt badly. Slowly, he realized he was still alive. He crawled to a muddy area away from the water and started to check to see if he had any broken bones. His heels hurt terribly, making it hard to stand. He carefully moved his arms and legs, relieved to find no broken bones. Using his backup light, he found his lamp and glasses and carefully fixed the lamp. He was in pain, but he had to stay calm and wait for his friends to return. The minutes felt like hours. Black was cold, tired, and in pain. The darkness was scary, and he felt very alone. He was breathing heavily, and every breath hurt. He was stuck, and he didn't know how he would get out. His friends came back, and they saw how bad he was hurt. They knew that they had to help him. They lowered a rope down to him, and he tried to climb up, but it was very hard. He was in pain, and his body was weak. But he kept trying, pulling himself up, inch by inch. Finally, he had reached the top, and he felt relieved. He was safe, but he was still hurt and tired. He knew he had to keep going, but he was grateful to be out of the dangerous part of the cave. Reaching the top of the drop was a huge relief, but the hardest part for him was still ahead. Dave Black and his team had to walk 2 more miles through the cave to reach the entrance. Now, for most people, this would be a difficult hike, but for Black, it was nearly impossible. The pain in his heels was so intense that he couldn't stand or walk properly. Every step sent sharp pain through his body, so he had to crawl for much of the way. The cave's narrow passages were rough and uneven, making every movement slow and agonizing. Black's hands scraped against the jagged rock, and his knees sank into cold mud. His friends stayed close, offering support, but there was little that they could do to ease his pain. The journey was slow and exhausting. Every inch they covered felt like a mile, and the darkness seemed to stretch on forever. The cave, once a place of adventure, now felt like a prison. Each minute dragged by as Black pushed through the pain, fueled by sheer determination and the encouragement of his teammates. His body ached, and exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, but he refused to give up. The thought of fresh air and sunlight kept him going. After 4 grueling hours, at 11 a.m. on Sunday, June 13th, they finally saw the entrance. The dim light of the outside world grew brighter, and the cool air of the cave gave way to the warmth of daylight. When they emerged, Black collapsed onto the ground, battered and bruised, but alive. His body was covered in deep bruises, but incredibly, he had no broken bones. As he lay there, breathing in the fresh air, he felt an overwhelming sense of relief. He had survived the fall, the pain, and the long journey out. The cave had tested his strength in every way, but he had made it out alive, and for that, he was deeply grateful. Dave Black's fall was a clear reminder that safety in caving depends on more than just skill and determination. It requires the right equipment and teamwork. His vertical rig failed him when it mattered most, and that failure could have ended in tragedy. A proper vertical rig should always be designed to protect the caver, even if one part of it fails. In Black's case, when the knot slipped and frayed, there was nothing left to stop his fall. Whether panic played a role or not, a well-designed rig should prevent such accidents. This incident also highlights an important lesson about teamwork underground. Never lose sight of the person behind you. In the dangerous, isolated environment of a cave, the last person in line is especially vulnerable. If they run into trouble, like Black did, they are alone. There's no one coming up behind them to help. If Black had been seriously injured or started bleeding, he might not have survived until his friends returned. Caving is a team effort, and every member must stay aware of each other's safety. A simple rule could save lives. Always keep track of the person behind you. If every caver does this, the group stays connected and no one gets left behind. In the darkness of the cave, being together is not just about companionship, it is about survival. Black's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of vigilance, preparation, and teamwork in the unpredictable world of caving. Today, we're exploring 2 Australian caving stories. The first shows how even the most careful cavers can still get trapped underground when unexpected trouble strikes in Wombeyan Cave. And the second story shows how Mother Nature can still reach for you even if you escape the cold, dark clutches of West Deep Creek Cave. Australia's amazing caves. Australia is packed with caves to keep local splunkers busy for a lifetime. And the largest, deepest, and most amazing caves draw explorers from all across the world. Some of the most impressive Australian caves include the Exit Cave System, Curralin, and Anaconda. The Exit Cave System is one of the longest caves in Australia, with multiple entrances across its nearly 10-mile stretch. Despite its fame, Exit Cave still has unknown portions. Plus, cavers still haven't made complete or detailed maps of its interior yet, which makes it an alluring choice for many adventurous spirits looking to get a slice of caving glory. Some of the entrances lie by the picturesque d'Entrecasteaux River by Pindar's Peak. Exit Cave's proximity to this water causes most of the cave to remain flooded, with multiple sumps and resurgences along its dark expanses. This vast and mostly unknown cave is challenging for splunkers to explore since it's only accessible by a long hike that involves climbing up and down steep terrain while carrying scuba and survey gear. Exit Cave and many of Australia's southern caves are also extremely dangerous for sporting cavers since many are far away from civilization, deep under, and not fully mapped. If you get lost or injured in one of these caves, chances are no one's going to save you. Even mounting a recovery mission for your body would take extreme effort. Curralin Cave is another one of Australia's most exciting caves. This time, the scenery outside is marred by the nearby Karamoka rock quarry. Mining operations in the area have also disrupted portions of the cave, revealing fissures in the rock that were loaded with fossils, indicating extreme tectonic activity in the distant past. Despite the obvious risk that mining poses to the cave's interior, some of Curralin's biggest enemies aren't cavers or even miners, but instead rabbits. The cave's entrance is a large funnel-shaped hole, or a dolina, on top of a hill protected by a fence. To maintain stability of the entrance, speleological groups planted grass and other local plants to keep the soil and rock formation intact. But rabbits are digging up the dirt and gnawing on the plant life, which can expose rock and lead to erosion. Curralin Cave also has its own fossil graveyard dubbed Dreamland, which might reference native folklore. Researchers have found new species of kangaroos and koalas in Curralin's expansive underground labyrinth that sprawls across 3 levels across a distance of 8.7 miles. Another amazing Australian cave is called Anaconda, that lies beneath Mount Anne. This cave was formed during the Precambrian era between 3.6 billion years and 539 million years ago. The name Anaconda references native languages of Papua New Guinea, and it roughly translates to Anne's Stone House. This cave is located under the highest mountain in Australia's premier caving region to the south of the country, including the island of Tasmania. Anaconda is one of the deepest caves in Australia, spiraling 1,224 feet into the earth. Like Curralin, Anaconda also has a dolina entrance, but this one is massive. Hydrogeological maps of both the cave and the Lake Timp region above ground indicate that Anaconda could extend another 270 feet deeper than splunkers have previously mapped. That would make it the deepest cave in Tasmania. Now, it's time to meet the cavers of Australia and the groups that keep them safe while exploring the dark mysteries below ground. Australia's Caver Commission and Rescuers. The cavers of Australia are kept safe by the Australian Cave Rescue Commission. The ACRC is a component of the larger Australian Speleological Federation. The ASF is an environmental organization and non-profit that also serves as the representing body for 23 of Australia's caving clubs. The ASF also represents Australia during meetings of the International Union of Speleology. Although the Cave Rescue Commission is separate from emergency first responders, they can still help send rescuers into action. And the ACRC also coordinates rescue operations among its members and even across the globe. In volume 218 of their Caves Australia journal, the Australian Speleological Federation published a detailed rescue guide for cavers who want to start their own clubs, or for those who are considering venturing into more challenging caves. Every caver should learn as much about cave rescue as possible. That way, if cavers find themselves trapped, they'll have some idea about what to do. The ASF helps Australian cavers and rescuers through field exercises like simulated sump extraction operations. Real sump rescue missions are incredibly dangerous. Sumps are portions of caves that are either mostly or totally submerged in water. They can be straightforward U-shapes, or they can be winding passages of rock that extend for miles. Cavers have to navigate these passages with no light other than the lamps they bring with them. And dirt also reduces the visibility of many sumps to 0 feet. If the guiding line breaks, then cavers and rescuers alike are at the mercy of their own memory and luck if they're going to survive. Sometimes, sumps can suddenly appear during floods as rainwater trickles down into caves. And that's why the ASF taught a class at Imperial Cave. Imperial Cave is part of the Genelin Cave Network, which contains show caves that highlight speleothems like rimstone pools, calcite formations, and fossil displays for both families and average non-splunkers. Imperial Cave is also part of a network that stretches under the Blue Mountains. You might think these show caves aren't worth the time of real rescuers or splunkers, but these caves provide excellent places to learn the basics. Show caves have lots of people nearby, including knowledgeable staff. They might have extra rescue equipment, and many of these facilities also have phone service to contact emergency services even if something goes wrong during training. Plus, it's important for rescuers to learn the routes of these common caves, since more people means more chances for accidents, and these visitors might not understand the risks of heading off on their own. A single foolhardy misstep could lead to disaster. Sometimes even these tame caves can claim lives. The Wombeyan Cave Rescue. That's almost what happened to one man who went venturing into Wombeyan Cave. Wombeyan was created 400 million years ago. Native populations used the cave for shelter, and it was central to the Gundungurra people, who told legends saying the cave was formed in a contest between the mythical reptile Garangach and a tiger cat, Maragan. Caving groups created a 417-hectare wildlife perimeter called Wombeyan Karst Conservation Reserve to honor the historical significance of this cave and to protect native plants and birds like the flat-faced frogmouth and the brown goshawk. Wombeyan has a show cave that offers campgrounds, hikes, and guided tours. There's also a self-guided shorter tour through Fig Tree Cave, which leads many to believe these caves are perfectly safe. But even though these caves seem like they're just for serene nature walks, they're still massive, volatile expanses of deadly rock and water. Even though it's tame, the guided tour lasts around 2 hours. What would happen if someone got lost? Or worse, how long would it take to find them, and would they be alive or dead? One 46-year-old man from Sydney was about to find out just how unforgiving caves can really be. The 46-year-old wasn't a novice caver, but he wasn't an expert either. He entered into the cave to take photos of gorgeous spelliforms that are open to the public. Then, he ventured a little further to get high-quality pictures of the more rugged parts of the cave that were just off the beaten path. He reached a narrow stretch of the cave and turned sideways to shuffle through. The jagged rocks pushed against his chest and scraped against his overalls. Tight squeezes like these can make even veterans get a blood pressure spike. But he saw the next portion, and he thought he'd make quick work of this challenge. 1 foot at a time, he slowly inched through the passage, being careful not to break his expensive camera. He was near the end of the passage when he heard a sound. Rocks began to bounce between the cave's close walls, rumbling as they nestled into place at the cave floor. He winced and braced for impact. Thankfully, the photographer wasn't in their path. If he was, he'd be a goner. As the rustled dust settled, he saw he was pinned in this tight squeeze deep below ground. When he didn't arrive back at the entrance, the staff at Wombeyan sounded the alarm to the Australian Cave Rescue Commission, who dispatched the Volunteer Rescue Association's Cave Rescue Squad. This branch might be the most elite members in the Australian cave rescue scene. An Australian politician said they were like a paramilitary organization because they executed their missions with shocking precision and speed. The team is split between those who specialize in vertical caves and those who deal with horizontal caves and their various sumps. Because Wombeyan had fabricated walkways and running electricity, the rescue team was able to set up a base camp close to the trapped photographer. However, they realized it was going to be a long wait. The trapped caver's lights started to die out while the team slowly chipped away at the loose rock. They gradually widened the passageway, being careful not to cause a cave-in. After 2 days of digging, the rescue team reached the trapped climber. He was shaken and weak, but alive. The rescuers strapped him to a stretcher and loaded him onto an awaiting ambulance. Sometimes these basic tours can turn deadly, and sometimes casual caving trips can bring entire families to the brink of life and death. Revenge of West Deep Creek Cave. Another brush with death happened over at West Deep Creek Cave, which belongs to the Orangobilly Cave system beneath the snowy mountains south of Sydney. One day in May of 2022, a group of Australian cavers led by Phil Fleming and Jason Moole got together to go exploring. They wanted to brush the dust off of their caving gear after taking a long break from the exhilarating, exhausting, and deadly sport of caving. The two friends made it into a journey for their whole families, including their kids. On the day of the expedition, the team of 8 found their way inside West Deep Creek Cave, making descent in daylight without any problems. They each shuffled down large boulders just past the entrance and carried on to explore the depths and wonder of West Deep Creek Cave. As they walked and crawled, they gabbed about how cool it would be if this entrance was unexplored. Another member of the team, Ed Coidel, was an expert surveyor who worked on Lechuguilla Cave in Mexico. Ed spent his time in West Deep Creek taking notes and researching. He also rained on their parade, pointing out marks in the rock that had been scraped off by metal from the gear of cavers before them. Even though they weren't breaking any new ground, the group pressed on, until it was time to head back. The return trip is when things got a little dicey for this casual family outing. The children didn't have the strength to overcome some of the short climbs on the way out. With help from Ed, they all made it over, but they were taking longer than they had anticipated. As they approached the surface, rain started to slip across the rocks and stream through the dirt into the cave. Focused on the physical task at hand and hypnotized by the fun of caving, they hadn't even thought to check the time as minutes turned to hours while they trudged back out of West Deep Creek Cave. Miraculously, they reached the exit and surfaced, but their troubles weren't over. The rain soaked into their heavy clothing and the cold air of the mountain started to chill. The team also had to hike back uphill to reach their cars. Thin ice started to form in muddy pools, causing cavers to slip as they pushed through the dense overgrowth of the surrounding forest. There was no path to the cave, so they had to bushwhack by cutting and pushing through the forest in front of them. Temperatures continued to drop as the sun, already blocked by rain clouds, began to set over the horizon. The 8 cavers crossed through natural blackberry bushes, but they were too stressed to stop and eat. At that moment, one of the members took out his compass and told them they were heading the wrong way. Half of the party agreed, while the other half wanted to continue on their current trajectory. Backtracking would mean pushing through more branches and thorns, and they were already drained. Tensions flared as both sides tried to convince the other. Then, the party split up. Shortly after splitting up, the man who suggested going a different route realized in horror that his compass had actually broken during a tight squeeze between gravel and a large boulder inside the cave. Panic started to take hold. Half of the group was lost in the dark wilderness as the threat of hypothermia began to creep ever closer. Using the last minutes of light left in their equipment, the lost team saw something in the shadows. The mouth of a dangerous beast that had killed thousands of would-be adventurers over the years. The entrance to another cave. Using only a map, they made it to East Deep Creek Cave, just up the mountain and the designated meeting place of the other half of the team. The others were already there, and they all agreed to rest and eat. They rallied what little energy they had left, ignoring blisters and scrapes that stung in the cold wind and rain, and powered through to their cars. They arrived home at 4 a.m., just as rescue crews were being prepped by the New South Wales Cave Rescue Squad. They replied to worried messages from relatives and informed the search party that they made it back in one piece. Just goes to show that it doesn't matter how safe caves look. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if you exit caves safely. The elements can claim your life as well. But if you survive nature's wrath and the terrors of caving, you can confidently say you've made it through hell and back. What do you say? Will you head inside? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these 2 Australian cave rescue stories, click that like button to let us know, and drop a comment if you've ever been to any of these amazing and deadly caves. Subscribe to the channel for more stories of brave adventurers teetering on the brink of life and death.